I'm Steph Ormond, and you're watching Platinum TV's coverage of Durham drama. Over the next few weeks, we'll be catching up with some of the actors, directors, and crew members who are helping to reanimate Durham's theatre scene. Today, we're at the Assembly Rooms Theatre for an exciting behind-the-scenes tour and to speak with some of the faces behind Durham Classical Theatre's Macbeth, an adaptation of Shakespeare's classic work, which will be released as a stream later in June. So come on, shall we take a look inside? So Esalan, thank you for speaking with us today. I know you're very busy, and so can you tell us like what inspired this adaptation of Macbeth?
So I got made director of Macbeth, this production, in December of 2019.
Right.
And it was meant to be on in March of 2020. Obviously it didn't happen because of COVID, but my original vision was for covering the whole stage in newspaper and having 3 male witches and an all-female principal leads, where the witches then also played the minor roles, drawing on this idea that all of the action in Macbeth, all the interesting action, happens off stage. And so I was interested in this idea of like reported action and like, do we actually know everything that's going on? Each of the 3 witches represent like sort of different aspects of patriarchal journalism.
Following on from that, do you feel that you can get the same energy into the performance without an audience in front of you?
The thing is that people haven't been on the stage for a year, which is really bizarre. And I think actually because they haven't done that, they feel the kind of adrenaline entering the stage space, despite the fact that there's no audience, that they may have had they been acting for a while beforehand in like normal times and then heading into a stage space with a live audience.
Thank you very much. And just to end on a more like light-hearted note, do you have a favourite scene?
The witches scenes are really, really fun. I'd probably say Act 4, Scene 1. It's like a physically interesting scene.
Right, I think that seems to be a favourite at the moment, actually.
I'm Tom, and I play one of the witches.
What is your favourite scene in the show?
Well, my favourite scene, personally, as acting one of the witches, is Act 4, Scene 1, where it's the one, I'm sure most people know, double, toil and trouble. So I think that's just really good fun to do, because you sort of get to prance around the stage, make a bit of a fool of yourself, being a witch.
So following on from that, how do you find performing and rehearsing knowing that there isn't going to be an audience directly in front of you, since it will be live streamed?
It's definitely different. I think when you're doing a live performance, you obviously have in the lead up to the actual performance itself, there's all the adrenaline of kind of getting everything together. But then obviously with it being filmed in different sections, I think you've got to look at it a bit differently and think, you know, this one is going to be, how's this going to be filmed? How's this going to appear when it's being produced? Rather than sort of feeding off that adrenaline, trying to work off the audience interaction for that.
Well, I wish you all the best of luck, Tom, with your role, and thank you very much for talking to us.
No worries, anytime.
One of the wonderful things about Durham Student Theatre is how it acts as a platform for the finest efforts of our student writers. We're here today at the Assembly Rooms to meet Imogen Usherwood, perhaps the closest person you'll find to a theatrical legend in Durham. Over the years, Imogen has held pretty much every role imaginable, and now she's back as a director with a play she wrote herself, Meeting Point, described as a heartbreaking but humorous examination of relationships in the digital age. Now, this is actually going to be the first DST play back in front of a live audience since lockdown, so this is exciting stuff, and you'll be able to watch in person on Sunday the 6th of June or online until Tuesday the 8th if that tickles your fancy. So we're not only here with Imogen as promised, but we are also here with a co-director, Hugo Millard, which is very exciting. What a directorial union we have here for Meeting Point. So, I mean, Imogen, we'll start with you, because this is the play you wrote.
Indeed.
Tell us a little bit about Meeting Point.
Yeah, I started writing it during the first lockdown, which was like a very long time ago now. And I kind of just started writing like scenes between these 2 people, and it was originally going to be just like a series of dates and kind of how we saw this relationship. And I think it was partly a COVID thing, the way that like we're so reliant on technology and the different ways that we communicate, and I thought it was quite interesting to see how you stage things like text messages and phone calls. So it kind of went from that.
Awesome. Why relationships? You always seem to focus on relationships in your writing.
It's become a running joke. I think it's just because relationships are always interesting to write about, because I like writing like dialogue and communication. Whenever I'm like doing like short stories or whatever, it always starts with like dialogue and speech. And I think relationships are such like interesting case study of that.
Great, thank you. And obviously, I'm hoping there's some form of communication between the two of you.
never
No,
You've never spoken, never. It's the first time you ever met. So Hugo, your co-director.
Exciting.
What's your stamp on the project? What are you looking to bring to Meeting Point?
I don't know. I really just love, in terms of like directing things I've directed before, is kind of like working on creating really authentic human relationships between people and like focusing on that as a specific element of like characterization. And so I just was so excited to like work on something that I can like really kind of like delve into and like kind of really explore that kind of like more human side of kind of like life almost.
That's interesting. How have you found working with Imogen?
Awful. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. It's been really wonderful to work with Imogen.
Is it the first time we've worked together?
I think it's the first time we've properly worked together.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
And play, which is honestly crazy.
Yeah, because obviously you've done so much with DST over the years. What keeps you coming back?
I mean, I just really love theatre, and like it's such a great opportunity, especially with DST. Like, lots of people like use it as like a nice entry point into kind of the actual industry. And so it's like nice to work in kind of like this kind of like semi-professional environment where you can really get that experience, but in a very kind of like friendly, welcoming way where you can like make mistakes and like no one minds because it's still just student theatre. Do you know what I mean?
I think in terms of writing as well, it's like, it's very immediate, because I think like, if it's like, oh, I've written a poem or a short story, like it might take you a while before you can get that published or before you can find someone who will like read it. But in DST, you can mostly you can say, oh, I've written a play, and you will find like a queue of people who want to be involved.
It sounds like a great community. Get involved with DST, because somebody needs to replace these guys as they're moving on into the future. So what does the future potentially hold? Is this a career you're looking at? Here to work?
I mean, if somebody wants to let me write plays and put them on, then yes, please. Yeah, it's something I'd love to go into writing in some capacity. I'm going to go do a creative writing degree in the future.
I think it's always really hard because the theatre industry is so hard to like break into, and just kind of like going off the back of like the opportunities we've had in DST, like it is kind of like a nice starting point if you do want to go into the industry. Of you then like have like built up some connections, you've built up some places that you can go afterwards, and like who knows what the future holds. If people want me to direct for them, sure.
Well, I mean, we wish them the best of luck here at PalTV. I'm sure all the viewers are cheering you on.
So, it's been a while since you've been acting in front of a live audience.
Yes.
How are you feeling about that?
Excited, yeah?
Yeah, really excited. It's been a long time, and there's been a lot of good online shows, but I think nothing beats being in person, so it's going to be really good, yeah.
I think it'll be slightly jarring to go out there and see faces in the audience, but like hopefully it'll be fine and it won't freak me out enough that I forget my lines. But
I think mostly it's a good thing. Like it's definitely nice to have people back and more adrenaline rush when you get the big applause at the end. Hopefully, well, we might. We don't know.
get moved off.
Yeah,
the atmosphere is different. It's nice. Yeah.
Why Meeting Point? Why did you decide to audition for Meeting Point?
No. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I kind of I thought it was a really interesting premise, basically. Yeah,
it's very relevant as well.
I mean, to be fair, I just really wanted to do some theatre as well.
Anything, we'll take anything.
Yeah.
What do you think is the overriding message then that the audience are going to take away from watching it?
I'd say the overriding message to take away from is be careful on Tinder dates.
Oh yeah, and that.
Be careful.